Now, we've got plenty of old buildings in our patch across North Staffordshire and South Cheshire. You just need to look out the window up Hanley Duck, and there are more historic buildings than I can shake a stick at. One local historian is determined to visit and explore as many historic buildings and sites around here that she can. Earlier on, I spoke to Jenna Goodwin, also known as the Red-Haired Stokey, and asked her why she loves the history of this area so much.
I just think there's such a huge amount of history in such a small place. Industrial history, social history, and it's, I don't know, really well recorded.
I'm born and bred in North Staffordshire. I was born in Stoke-on-Trent, and I live in Tunstall now. And the one thing that my dad always used to say this, people never look up. And if you do look up when you're walking up and down the high streets across Stoke-on-Trent, some of the buildings are absolutely out of this world, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, we definitely need to look up more, and we also need to look down as well, because there's so much history beneath our feet in Staffordshire, and I love exploring all of them, everything that's underneath our feet, the hidden tunnels, the mines, and everything that's above. Like you say, you look up, you've got the beautiful architecture. The top floor of most buildings in our cities, I think, are unused, which I think is a shame. But like you say, you look up the architecture, the details on the buildings, anything above the shop fronts, basically.
A lot of the pigeons enjoy the architecture in Tunstall at the moment, unfortunately. So what's your most recent discovery, then?
The most interesting, most recent one, I think, is the Priory underneath stone, the house in stone. That's a great one. It's basically, there's a house in stone. It's called Priory House. And underneath it is basically the remnants of a priory that was built in about 670 AD. And the archways and the stone are still just there in the basement of the house. It's fascinating. You would never know it walking past.
So the people who live in the house, I mean, did they know it was there?
Yeah, they love it. They're really, really proud of the fact that it's there. So it's not on show to the public because it's a private house, but I knocked on the door and asked politely, and they were very nice.
Some like brazen redhead knocking at your door saying, "Can I have a look at your priory?"
Pretty much, yeah. Well, if you don't ask, you don't go.
This is very true. So describe it to us then.
It's basically like an undercroft. So imagine how you would imagine the crypt of a medieval priory looking. It's got these beautiful archways and these lovely old stone walls. And it's a mixture of all the different years and all the history throughout the years. So you've got the old archways, there's a Georgian house built on top. So it's got a lovely, relatively modern stone floor because they still use it. They've put lovely lighting in, so it's all lit up beautifully. And the stonework is original, but then there's walls that have been put in that aren't modern, but they aren't as old as the priory, that would have extended possibly into a further crypt under the priory. So it's not a huge space, but it probably would have been when the priory was standing.
You see, I love history and I love old buildings and old houses. My house was built in 1892, and there's a couple of the original features that are still in there. Not many, but a couple. Now, when you go into these old buildings that you find out about, do you ever get a sense that you're not alone? Because, you know, these places were built centuries ago.
Well, I think we would be naive to say that there's nothing in these buildings, whether you believe in ghosts or memories. I think the thousands and thousands of people that have passed through these rooms over the years, I think we'd be daft to say that there's nothing. I've never had a true encounter, but I've felt things and seen shadows and things like that, but who can say?
So what's the most interesting discovery you've ever made? What's the thing that you've discovered or been to where it's literally taken your breath away and you've got one of them?
I think one of the most interesting places I've been, and there is no answers as to what it is for, is the tunnel underneath St Edward's Church in Leek. We've got no idea what it was for. There's always talk of tunnels under churches and monks and things like that, but it's very rarely true. And it's not a huge tunnel, but each part of the space is a different brick and a different age. And you go into the church and go under the church into the basement where all the heating system and things is. And then it's underneath that. And they found it accidentally when they were putting a new heating system in, and it had been filled in with rubble. So they emptied it all out, and it just goes down and down and up and round the corner, and it's all made of different brick. and no one's got any idea what it's for. There's no record of it at all.
Wow. Because, of course, a lot of priest holes were quite common in buildings, centuries ago, where they used to have to make a hasty retreat without being seen.
Yeah, I don't think that's what this is. It's not a hole. It's not even really a tunnel. It's just like a combination of different little hidey holes and tuckaways and tunnels. And some of them are in Victorian brick, and some of them are dug into the base sandstone while underneath the church. So I think it originally predated the church.
Wow. So what's next for you then, 2024? What's your next venture?
Well, I am writing a couple of books at the moment, things that have got, I started off writing them as an article and there's too much information, so I've got to expand it into a local book. One of them is on the history of Ash Hall in Warrington. It's now a nursing home, and it's got an incredibly random past that it's been used. I mean, it was built in the early 1800s, but it's had a really varied history throughout the years. And one of the other things, if it ever stops raining, is I love to metal detect. So I'm going to hopefully get out and do more local detecting and share my finds with my followers and keep people up to date with that. And then basically just explore more, make more videos, write more articles. And I think one of the main things in 2024 that I'm going to try and do is hopefully help to save more of our heritage. I think with the amount of followers that I've got and the love for the heritage that my followers have got in the city, I think we can use that for good. I'm currently fundraising for Lockton Cemetery. We're trying to save the building there and get it painted up and get the wood restored. So we've got a GoFundMe set up for that.
The Redhead Stokey, if you want to follow her escapades this year, is a busy girl, not one bit but two. Metal detectoring, is that a word? And saving local heritage. She's got a lot on this year. Love it. I do love a bit of history when it comes to buildings, although, if my history teacher, Mr. Hancock, could see me now, he'd say, well, you never showed any interest when you're in class, Paula, in history. That's very, very true. But as an adult, do like to look at the old buildings, and we've got plenty of them around here.